So welcome to Scrapbook Live. It's December 13th. I am Megan Jacks. Thanks for joining me this morning. It's morning on the West Coast. For those of you who are in the Central or Eastern time zones, or maybe other parts of the world, you may have a PM on the clock, and that's a lot of fun for you. So today's layout is going to be a blog project from February of 2020. It originally used the oh my goodness, Magic Awaits. I had to look at the title because we've had Creative Memories they started, I think, back in 2018, maybe 18 with, maybe it was 19, with the Imagine collection. And then we had Imagine that, then we had Sparks of Magic, we had Magic Awaits, and then, oh no, we had Magic Awaits and then Sparks of Magic. So you can see we've gone through and now we have Adventure Parks. And so those have all been the collections that have been really designed to go with the California and Florida theme parks. We were told a long time ago not really to mention Disney, but they kind of do. If you'd like to go to amusement parks, Disney, Universal, those type of places, these collections have gone well with that. So that's what this original layout was from the blog, but I am using a little bit of the Magic Awaits, but I have some other stuff I'm mixing in as well because I am doing pictures from the professional lacrosse league games that we went to earlier in August. So my son Cody loves lacrosse. He is bound and determined he is going to be a PLL player when he is older. And so he's going to go. He's got it all picked out. He's like, Mom, what are the best colleges for lacrosse? I was like, oh, East Coast, buddy. And we have all these conversations. He wants to get a scholarship. He wants to study hard so he can get that scholarship, and which is really great because just my son is dyslexic. And so all of those, hearing him say that he wants to achieve that is really exciting for me. But that's enough chatter. Let's go ahead and get over to this layout so we can get it all put together. All right, so I've got my handout. If you need the handout, it is on my blog. And so I just copy and paste all of directions from the Creative Memories blog. And if you do want to find the original Creative Memories blog post, you can come over here to the QR code and scan that. I also give you the date of the blog post. If you prefer to search by the date on the Creative Memories blog, you can search by the month and then go to the date. And so, as I mentioned, this uses the Magic Awaits collection, but really, I mean, you can just see there's lots of ways that you can just mix and match your papers. Another great one to use scraps. I sometimes have a hard time, like this isn't a layout I necessarily start when I am working with fresh pieces of paper. But this is definitely one when I have started working through my sheets of paper a little bit more. It's a good one for scraps, or if I know that I have to mix and match my collections, this is also a great type of layout to do because I can just grab scraps out of all these different collections, maybe all, various Christmas scraps, or you're going to see here, I'm going with purples, blacks, and grays because those match the team colors of the Water Dogs, they are my son's favorite team. So, what you're going to need for tools, you are going to need your circle custom cutting system where they make some circles along the top. You need circle number 2, which is your medium circle, and you're going to need the red blade for that. Now, alternately, you could come in with a different, instead of doing circles, you could punch along the top. You could make punched elements. So I grabbed some punches. The one that probably goes the easiest if you like the rounded is going to be the mandala border punch. It is approximately 2 3/8 inches wide, which is how wide our 5 strips are here. So you could easily just come in and punch the top and the bottom. I wouldn't, they tell you to cut these rectangles to 9 inches. I wouldn't do that. I would go ahead and probably just, I might be tempted just to punch the 12-inch top and bottom, and you'll be good to go. Now, if you wanted to use like one of your frame punches, you could do so. If you wanted to put some spider webs across the top, you definitely could do so. This is 2 inches wide though. So instead of 2 3/8 inches and having 5 stripes, you're going to go with 2-inch stripes and you'll have 6 of them. So if you decide you want to use a frame punch, and I've got like spider webs is a frame punch, this is cloud frame punch. You could also use sunshine arches. Those are all 2-inch. So if you want to mix it up a little bit and you don't want to use your custom cutting system to make circles, you could come in with 2-inch wide strips. Just make a little note down here. You need 6 2-inch wide strips, and then you can use your frame punches, and you can use your border maker system, like especially the sunshine arches there. All right, but I am sticking to the directions here. I am more or less following their directions. I love their use of the borders here. You can see at the top, they punch the roller coaster border. They use the other roller coaster laser border layered border that were part of the Magic Awaits. And then at the bottom, they just kept it really simple with a couple of the sticker borders that came as part of the Magic Awaits collection. And so this is a great opportunity for you. If you do have some punches, mix and match, I'm sure you've got tools to be able to put together some fun borders here. So really just let the theme of your collection is going to carry those elements. So my theme, as I mentioned, is lacrosse. I've got some photos. I've already got the second page done, but you can see here, my son, he was so excited about his jersey. Oh my gosh, the price of those jerseys. I don't want to hear anybody complaining about the tools that my husband saying anything about my scrapbooking purchases after I bought the jersey for my son. But the water dogs, their color is purple. And the reason my son loves the water dogs is because he went to a clinic this last summer, and it was run by one of the guys who's on the water dogs. And so he feels like his coach plays professional lacrosse and he loves the water dogs. All right. So I needed purple. So I grabbed some eggplant. I knew I was going to use eggplant, right? I needed some purple. So we're going to grab eggplant cardstock. That was going to be my starting point to go for my color of my team. When I'm doing sporting events that I know I don't have a whole collection that really matches, I go to the color of the team. And so we're going to go with some purple, eggplant. Now I needed a background. You can see here they use that white and black striped background. I needed a background, and I knew I wanted something from like the turf because they were playing on, they're actually playing at the baseball stadium, but it's basically they play on sort of like the size of a soccer field. So I went ahead and I grabbed out of the back to school texture pack. This was released earlier, I think maybe in July or August. It's a texture pack. It mimics you can see here we've got kind of this striped turf background here. And so this is the one I decided to use. Now, on this layout, you can easily see that we are covering up a lot of that background. You probably could come in across the top and cut down maybe 3 inches the top and the bottom and build this on a piece of cardstock. The one thing I do want you to know, if you do that and you follow the directions here, your pieces and the background are 2 3/8 inches wide. Now, 12 inches, if you divide it by 5, is close to 2 3/8 inch, but you're going to have a little bit showing on each edge. When we cut this one, I might suggest that you cut just a smidge over 2 3/8, not by much. I mean, we're talking like a hair over the 2 3/8, and that's going to help us fill in those gaps a little, fill in that outside gaps. But with that in mind, that is why I'm just using the entire background. I'm not worried about saving this particular piece of paper, like elements of it. I could cut out the middle probably if I wanted to, but I don't want to, since I'm putting those strips on, I don't want to destabilize the background, and I don't want to use another piece to restabilize it. So I'm going to build it straight on my paper. But if you are trying to conserve paper, you could come in 3 inches at the top, 3 inches at the bottom, keep a 6-inch piece out of the middle, and you'd be good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and I've picked some papers. I have all of my black and white paper in one project folder. All my tonal blacks, things that are black and white, those are all in one folder, just labeled black and white. So it's easy for me to go when I know I need those colors. So this is from the black and white collection. This one here is also from that same collection. This one is from the Sparks of Magic. Nope, Magic Awaits. Sorry, I keep getting them all confused. Magic Awaits tonal pack. I've already got the eggplant. And then I had this gray piece out of the, I think there was a black cardstock mix and match. It was a paper buffet thing that we had that had like 4 or 5 pieces of paper in it, maybe 6 pieces of paper, and then like 4 pieces of cardstock. And I can't think of what it's called, but this is, I'm pretty certain, is out of the black one. But it's just a lovely texture. So I've got some darks, I've got some lights, mid-tones with the purple and bringing in there. So that's gonna look really nice across the top of my page, the middle of my page. So this particular piece of paper didn't have a whole lot of, and so I needed to be very careful when I cut it. So I went ahead and I already cut it, and I actually already made my my circle pieces to go at the top and the bottom, the half circles. So that just worked out really well. The one thing you could try to cut half circles at the top and at the bottom of strips of paper. Using the custom cutting system this way, it can be a little bit challenging, especially since we want 5 of them, to make sure that we get everything positioned exactly. So doing the circles, or that we then cut in half, make sure that we are going to have tops and bottoms that match across the width of our layout. All right. So I know you may be thinking, well, I can just, you know, cut a strip, cut a half circle at the top and cut a half circle at the bottom and I'll be good. Well, the challenge you run into is at making sure that you get everything evenly spaced, so you have 5 of them that are the exact same, so that the tops of and the bottoms here all line up. So I definitely recommend cutting your rectangles, and then out of our strip of paper at the top, we'll actually cut the circle. So this was my original piece here. You can see I have a long rectangular piece, and I cut the circle out of the top, trimmed it to 3, trimmed off the 9-inch segment that we need after I cut the circle. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and start cutting those circles, the strips and the circles. And they need to be 2 3/8 inches wide, and just a smidge more, just a smidge more. Not much more, just a smidge. So 2 3/8. So really what I'm going to do is I am basically just going to make sure that I am covering up the entire 3/8 inch. Sometimes when you do, you come up and like, oh, I'm going to come right up to the line. No, I'm going to go just right covering up that line. And I'm going to cut that to 2 3/8. Now I am not going to cut this to 9 inches. I'm going to leave this as is. We're going to come in here and use our circle at the top and cut it. And I'm going to do that right now to show you. Medium circle, we're going to come here to the top. Now the one thing I do want you to know, we're going to end up with some flat sides of our circle here, because our 2 3/8 is not wide enough to cut a complete circle, but trust me, it works well. But I want you to be careful when you're cutting. It's almost like you're going to cut 2 half moons. You're going to be to the top of your paper, as close to the top as you feel comfortable getting. And then I'm going to make sure I'm even on both sides. I do have a little bit of space. Like I said, we're going to have flat sides to our circle, and that's okay. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hold my paper and I'm going to cut around the top. And I'm going to come here at the bottom and I'm going to start again. And I'm going to cut the half circle. So there you can see I've cut out my circle. I have ever so slightly flat sides, but that's okay. The way they butt up next to each other, it's okay. They don't have to be perfect circles. The little extra there is okay. What's great about it is my pattern lines up. So when I cut my circles in half, my pattern will line up when I place my half circle at the top and my half circle at the bottom. So now I can come in with this piece and I can trim it to 9 inches. I do see a question about that I'm cutting in and out. So hopefully my audio is okay. If you are having trouble, sometimes it your Facebook connection. And so you can leave the live and come right back in, and maybe you'll have a better connection. So I'm going to line this up at 9 inches and I'm going to trim it off. And now I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that 3 more times. I've already got 2 of them done. I did 1 ahead of time. My next piece is this kind of dotted black and white, 2 3/8. I'm going to trim the rest of my pieces. Go ahead and cut those at 2 3/8. And then cut my cardstock at 2 3/8. All right, so now I'm going to come back, and if you don't like cutting your circles out of the top here, you can go ahead, grab your pieces of paper and cut your circles from a full, big section if this isn't working for you. It really just kind of depends on how comfortable you are with the custom cutting system. You can't do a full circle. You have to do the 2 half circles rather than trying to cut that full circle. So if that's not something that's working well for you, grab your sheet of paper, come back in and cut out that circle. You could also cut the full circle before you trim your paper. Like I could have come in here, cut my circle, and then slice it at 2 3/8. Just make sure that you're all the way here at the top before you do that. You want to make sure you're as close to the end as you are, cut your circle, and then cut your 2 3/8. This is just me being obsessive about not using any more paper than I need to. I am using my finger to hold the paper in the middle. The cardstock cuts a little bit better than the decorative paper. I'm going to cut all my circles first. And when I say it cuts, the cardstock cuts better, for this particular technique, it cuts a little bit better because it's a little bit more heavyweight than the designer paper. There we go. Grab my scissors and finish trimming that one. And then come here and do that. All right, so this is going to be my last, oops. Grab my scissors to clean up any areas that didn't trim away, just so I don't want any little like tear marks or anything like that. Just trim those up. All right. Now we need to go back to our trimmer because we need to cut down the rest of our rectangles, and we need to trim our circles in half. So when I trim the circles in half, I want to kind of find that flat bottom, that flat section, because those are my sides. And I want to trim from side to side where my flat surfaces were. That is going to allow my pattern to line up. This one doesn't matter so much, but I don't want that flat surface to be on the top of I want it to be at the side. So I'm going to want to cut down this way. Here's my top and my bottom. I'm going to use my trimmer and I'm going to bring it all the way to the bottom. And if I nestle it in right in here, I can cut a circle in half. All right, that's the trick with this trimmer. And what I'm doing is I am just looking to make sure that my flat surfaces, my flat edges are right there, and I'll go ahead and cut. Now, it won't cut all the way, but it cuts the majority of the way. And I'll use my scissors to finish that cut. Lining up the same way here, all the way to the bottom, finding my flat edges, making sure my flat edges are at the top and the bottom when I'm cutting, because that means they'll be on the side when I put it on my paper. Now this one, this grid, I want to make sure that I definitely not rotated it at all. So I'm going to put it in here. I'm looking for my flat edges. I can see those. And then I am double checking that my grid, because I have a grid to this piece of paper, is definitely running evenly down the top and the bottom. Nothing worse than cutting your grid on an angle, especially when you have a straight edge. All right, this last piece is the eggplant cardstock. Just making sure, cutting across those flat edges. All right, so now I've got all my pieces. Oh, I put my trimmer away too soon. I need to cut this to 9 inches. So I do see Sandy had a comment, will the circle punch work? The circle punch trims to 1 3/4. So it's not quite wide enough. If you wanted to use a circle punch, you definitely could. You could trim your pieces of paper to 1 3/4. And then what you would do is you probably need 7 to 8 of them across your piece of paper. If you did cut them to 1 3/4 inch, I would start in the middle with your full piece and then work your way outward. So if you have any smaller pieces, they're going to be on that outside edge. Lots of ways when you're doing the stripes, if you're doing the patterns like that, that you can alter it. I mean, they give us the 2 3/8 because it fits 5 nicely across the layout. However, if you want to do 6, they would be 2 inches each. If you do any other size, you just need to start in the middle and work your way outward. That way you are any half or smaller, less than full size pieces will be the same on each side. Just like when you're tiling a project or putting in things where you need to have that kind of spacing. You just want to start in the middle and work your way outward so that your center has that nice full piece. Except if you're doing 2-inch pieces. If you do 2-inch pieces, you're going to have 3 on each side. So you'd start at 6 inches, go this direction, start 6 inches, go that way. Dry fit your pieces first so that you know if you're using a different size. Dry fit your pieces in so you can make sure your spacing is correct. Okay, so next up, I've got my pieces all cut. I'm going to use my background. Now what I'm going to do here is I am going to go ahead and use a little bit of repo adhesive on the back of my paper, put it on my 13 by 13 mat to hold it in place, because I am going to need to use my T-square ruler. You may also, I could also use, if you have a 0 center ruler, you could use, you don't have to use a T-square, you could use any kind of ruler. In fact, maybe I will use my 0 center ruler. And I need to line this up at 1.5 inches, because remember my pieces here are 9 inches tall. So I want them centered top to bottom. So if this is 9 inches, that means I have 3 inches left over on my 12-inch piece of paper. So half of 3 is 1.5. So I'm going to make sure that the bottom is at 1.5 inches. I'm going to use my 0 center ruler because that will let me make sure that I am centered, and it's centered at looks like I'm going to be, if I would put my ruler so I could read it, there we go. The 0 center ruler, I am going to be positioning this at 1 and, oh my goodness, 3/16. Gotta love it when you divide 3/8 in half, it's actually 3/16. making sure that I'm at that 1.5. Now I will go ahead and I am going to use repositionable adhesive on these pieces just in case I need to move them. So like I said, 1 3/16 or 7 3/16 if you have a ruler is where your right edge would be. All right. Now, I knew I wanted the purple in the middle, so I probably should have done, because I always tell you guys to do a dry fit, you want to make sure you like what you're doing. I know I want my white just kind of worked in there. I've got 2 darker colors, so I am going to have those on the outside edge from each other. And then I've got this mid-tone gray, which I'm going to space right here. So when I have these spaced in here, and I've got that centerpiece in, it actually gives me a chance. Put your centerpiece in if you want to then lay your other pieces in next. That's going to tell you, look for that outside edge. I have a little bit of green showing through. That's okay. But everything looks spacing wise. I don't have a ton of green over here compared to a little bit over here. All right. So, oh, I like the comment. Yeah, if your teachers had used scrapbooking to teach math, it would have been pretty fantastic. Yes, we all would have learned how to use a ruler much better. The fundamental things of these darn rulers. So everything looks good. I am actually not putting this together now. I don't need my ruler. I just use my ruler to get that first one in place. I'm going to go ahead and just start putting these other pieces in. I'm not going to worry about my ruler. I just need to make sure that my bottom edge here is flush with my eggplant. And I want to get this seam in the middle as nice and tight as possible. It's okay if it's not perfect. I do have a darker background compared to my papers, so it's blending in. I can see like a little bit here at the top. I can see a little bit of the green poking through, but that's okay. Yeah, you guys would probably never would have guessed, that's it, that geometry was my favorite class, my favorite math class. I do like fractions. I feel pretty blessed that I've always had a good understanding of things like fractions and geometry. So it's worked out well with scrapbooking and rulers and things, so forth. All right. So there, we've got our pieces on. Now it's time to go ahead and put our pieces across the top. And I'm just going to set these in place. You can set them in place first, and you can see here as I'm putting them into place, see how that flat edge, the flat edges all line up right next to each other. I mean, we cut these from the same width of our strip, so we don't have to worry about our circles overlapping. And they just go on like such. I'll get some adhesive and we'll put them all in place, but you can see how easily that goes together. All right. And I am just going to use that repositionable adhesive. I probably could use regular adhesive if I want. I sometimes just default to grabbing the repo adhesive. And just keep putting them all in place. Now, if you're expanding this to 2 pages, you just double all your cuts. I mean, assuming you're using the same 5 pieces or 5 different colors. Maybe you're not using the same 5 colors. Maybe you got 2 different colors and you're just alternating them down the line. Maybe you have more than 5 colors and you're going to spread them out. You'll need 10. So you could easily come in with, you know, whatever pattern of colors and just expand it all the way down across the second page. My second page actually looks very much like the first. That's why when I was putting the colors on here, I had to like, I'm looking over at the page I already have done to double check, like, okay, what order did I put these in? And as you can guess, we want to make sure we have, our next step is going to figure out what do we want to use for border elements at the top and the bottom, because we do use those border elements across the top and the bottom to cover up the seam. So that's what they use in the original layout, is they do use some border elements. So, but you don't need, they use, I mean, in the original, you can see they use some pretty chunky border elements, especially across the top, and even the bottom is kind of chunky, but really all you need to do is cover up the seam. So if you want to leave yourself more space in the middle, they just have 2 horizontal pictures in here, and you may be thinking, I need more space in that. You have some flexibility in how you do your borders at the top and the bottom. So since I'm doing something like lacrosse that doesn't really have, we don't have a lacrosse border punch, right? So I wanted to use something that was energetic, sporty, things like that. So that's when I go to things like my chevrons, I go to my arrows, I go to zigzag, I go to those types of things where there's clean lines. Motion is kind of insinuated when you have things like arrows and chevrons. To me, those are things that I use for a lot of sporting type stuff. So I've got several to choose from, and I ended up going with chevron arrows, which I think just recently retired from Creative Memories, was on the last chance sale. If you don't have it and you do need it, I can hook you up. So send me a message. But I like it because it has that motion of it just has motion to it, right? It has that implied movement. So I thought that was pretty fantastic. I also really liked the reverse side of this piece of paper was the stripes, the black and white stripes. And I thought that was fun. It was different from the patterns I already had on here. So I knew I could use it and it would still stand out against the other patterns. So first I said, oh, well, I'll punch this. And I cut it at about 1 1/8 inch and put it on here, but it just wasn't quite right. The black and white stripes were competing with the chevrons and I couldn't see anything. And then I said, well, okay, so let me put something behind those chevrons. And then when I decided I needed a little bit more gray. And so thankfully, the reverse side of this piece is a lighter gray, has a little bit of a zigzag to it, but I cut some pieces down to go behind this. I could have just used gray cardstock too, but when I put that gray behind there, it lets the arrows stand out of my punch. It does brings in a little bit more of that tonal gray. And then those striped patterns at the top and the bottom are just part of the border. They're not really, they're not a central focus to the inside of the chevron piece. So let me pull this up so you guys can see it a little bit better. So you see, I wanted something that was going to stand out against the pieces against the background, but also have a little bit of movement to it. So that is why I decided to go with the chevron. And I decided to use the purple. I just wanted to pull a little bit more purple in here. And so that worked out really well. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble this. So I need to add this gray to the back of my chevron arrows. So I'm going to just apply some repo adhesive across these arrows. And then when I put this on, I want to make sure my gray side is down, the lighter gray, and that it covers up that space. And then I will use some regular adhesive. And here I'm just going to kind of go little bits across both sides, help anchor that gray strip in place. See, I just zigzagged a little bit of adhesive. And then I will run that right down the middle of this border. So I have those stripes at the top and the bottom. All right. So now the question is this going to be a top or a bottom border, right? I could go to the top, and then I needed something here at the bottom. I knew I didn't want to repeat this. One, I couldn't repeat it because I don't have any more of the light gray paper. All right. If I wanted to repeat it, I was going to have to change these out to be just cardstock, gray cardstock. So I had already committed to these pieces, and I was like, nope, we're going to make this work. All right. So it could be at the top. And then I needed something here at the bottom. So what I decided I would do is I was going to go ahead and I cut a thin piece of the stripe. And I could put it at the bottom, and then, but it needs something across the middle of it. So I just went and cut a small bit of purple to come across the bottom. Okay. Then I decided that I didn't like the big border at the top, and I kind of wanted it at the bottom. So I just switched things around. I can tell you this border is going to have to go that direction, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And then this piece is going to come across the top as such. By using the thinner border at the top, by using that thinner border at the top, by using a thinner border, it didn't really matter if it was at the top or the bottom, I am giving myself a little bit more space in here to use photos. They used horizontal photos. I knew I was going to be using at least one 4x6 photo. And then I printed some 3.5 by 3.5 by 5s that I ended up trimming down a little bit. But here, this worked out a little bit better. By having more space in here, I had room for mats. And I really wanted to mat because I had pulled out of the back to school texture pack. There's kind of this like wood floor, like a court, like a gym floor paper. And I loved the little pop of yellow in there because yellow and purple together are high energy. They are, I can't remember if they're like complementary or coordinating or whatever kind. I mean, think of all the sports teams that are purple and yellow. That's a combination that is just fun. It's high energy, lots of great just things. And so I wanted that. I've got some golden tones in some of the pictures. We were there for an evening game, so we have a little bit of golden coming through some of the photos, and it just worked out really well to have that burst of additional color. So by matting things, I let them pop off the page a little bit more, work in that third color, or actually it's the fourth color, and it just, I think, made everything look better. So I'm going to attach this thin strip of eggplant to my thin strip of the striped paper. Just going to run right down the middle. And it's going to go across the top and across the bottom. I say, okay, this is funny, and Julie's probably laughing. So Julie's over here commenting that they are wonderful colors because the purple and the gold together, because they're husky colors, which is the Washington Huskies, University of Washington Huskies. Now, my son's a Coug, so he goes to Washington State University, and they're the Cougs, and they're red and crimson and silver, crimson and gray. So I know when I realized I was using the husky colors, I was a little bit like, oh my gosh, I did roll my eyes a little bit at that, but I'm making it work because, you know, I still like the color combination. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead. I've got some photos that I have cut or I've made. I'm going to add them to my mats. My mats are 3.5 by 5. My photos I trimmed down to being, a 1/4 of an inch smaller than that. So I have about 1/8 of an inch mat all the way around on these smaller photos. On my larger photos, I left my larger photo here. I left that as a 4x6. So I left that as a 4x6 so I could peekaboo pocket it. And then I went ahead and I cut a 4.5 by 6.5 inch mat. And then I had to cut out a small portion of it because I refused to cut another piece of paper. So to be able to get all of the mats, and I'll show you because I needed my second page. Let me go grab that. make some room up here so I can add it and you guys can see. I needed 4 more of the mats. All right, 4 more here. So I also needed to get this page out so I could remember where I put my borders. And I did. I came in 1 inch off the bottom and 1 1/8 inch off the top. That was the other question. I couldn't remember where I put, how I lined up these borders. But I was bound and determined to get all of that. I wanted to get all of the all of the mats out of one piece of paper. So it was, you know, last night when I was working on it yesterday afternoon, I was like, how can I do this? And I got 5 of them. I needed 1 more. And I was like, well, if I try really hard, I can cut it out of the middle. And so I did. So I need to get these photos put on. I'm going to put the mat on and then I'll put my photo on top of it. I am lucky I have a grid pattern on this piece here, so I'm using that grid pattern to help me line things up. I'm not pushing things down, I'm just setting them in place. I will push them down firmly once I've got everything where I want it. I did use, yes, thank you, Kelly is responding and letting Deborah know. I did use a full piece of green under here. I talked to you, could come in and you could remove the section, or you could use 3 inches across the top and 3 inches across the bottom. But with the way this layout is done, because these are 2 3/8 inch strips, you do end up with a little bit of your background showing through on the sides. All right. I tried cutting a little bit more than 2 3/8 and still didn't cover it up. So you might want to cut a little bit more than 2 3/8. I don't know if I'd go a full 1/16 over, but you know, you can go like probably a 32nd, which is not even on the trimmer, right? So we actually got to watch 2 PLL games. The tickets that we had, you kind of got to watch the 2 evening ones. They had 2 evening games. And so we have the things here showing the first game we watched. And then the second page is all about the second game, which was the highlight because that was when the Water Dogs played. So what I'm looking for here is, because I'm carrying across, I'm going to make sure that these photos are the same distance down as those photos. So I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to measure, and I am at 2 1/8 from the top, and I'd like to be about 2 1/8 from the top there. Just making, because I really want to make sure that these 6 photos that are the same size are both, they carry across nice and evenly. Then I have to kind of figure out how am I going to do this lovely frame. I want it to be centered top to bottom for sure. And I think that's where it's going to be. And I do have a peekaboo pocket situation that I'm going here. So this picture of him watching with his jersey will be there. And then I do have, since is not the best photo, but it's my kid. And we've got this photo. And then when you open it up, I have some space to do some journaling. So this is where we'll be able to talk about the game itself, a little bit of some chaos things that were going on at the game. But all in all, I've got some journaling space in here. Now, the other thing I need to do is I do need to come in with a title. And you can see over here on this side, and it's probably hard for you guys to see. It's a little bit easier to see in person. The downside to using the black and the white was I have black and white stickers. I also have purple stickers, but I really wanted to use either the black or the white. Of course, when I go across the page here, I'm across the white, so it's hard to see. It says Go Water Dogs. In person, it's a little bit easier to see because you can pick up on the separation, the shadow that's ever so slightly there behind the stickers and the white. Over here, I'm going to have it say PLL-Seattle. And then I will put the date in somewhere on here, just like 8 dash, I think it was the 19th, may have been the 20th. 8-20-23. So that's going to be easy to do. I'm just using the collegiate stickers. And I don't know how you guys handle your stickers. I did have to open a second pack of collegiate stickers. I don't remember what I ran out of. I do like the ratio of letters that we have in here. Well, I could tell you, I needed an A and an F. Apparently there's only 2 Fs, 2 capital Fs. And I do believe whatever I did before, I must have used both capital Fs and I needed new capital Fs. So usually when I'm doing my stickers, you guys, everybody has their own strategy. I try to keep, and I really should probably label on here like 1. It tells me it's the first of each of the sheets. And then I go until I run out of that letter and then I dig into my next pack. So my first letter that I need is a capital P. So I'm going to look over here and I do have capital Ps. I need 1 P and 2 Ls for PLL. And then it's going to have to say Seattle. So then I would have to go through and look, do I have a capital S? Yes, I do have a capital S. Then I can go through E, A, look for those. I know I'm going to have to go to my second sheet to get an A because I've already had to get an A from here when I did Water Dogs. And I just work my way across there. So the first one I'm going to need is that capital P. I'm sure many of you do use your multi-purpose tool. And I am using the bottom edge of this top border as the bottom edge of where I'm putting my stickers. So that makes it really easy. I don't need to worry about using my Titletopia. I don't need my T-square ruler. You can see right here, I lined it all along the bottom here. So we'll go PLL. I need 2 capital L's. I am not going to try to spell out Professional Lacrosse League. I don't want to have to glue that all down. My things are moved around a little bit. I got to just get those to stay in space. So PLL and then Seattle. And I'm not going to put the date on right now. I have to go back and look at my phone to see when I took the pictures. So PLL, and let's see, do I have a dash? I don't see a dash per se. I could probably make one. So I'm going to give myself some space if I want to add a dash. And I'll come over here. Nope, that's the brand new sheet. This is where I really do try to keep track of the sticker sheets so that I am really trying to work my way through the stickers, not leave. So PLL Seattle. I saw a comment about, needing more lowercase vowels. And I do think that they've done a little bit better with some of these new, if you'll notice, Creative Memories has been releasing new designs to their alphabets. And I think they listened. They have more they have more vowels in there compared to numbers. The downside is now like there's 3 twos in here. We probably could have used a whole sheet of twos. We're in the 2020s. My son graduated in 2022. So you can imagine I go through twos really quickly when I'm doing stuff for him. I need an A. So I know I'm going to have to go back to my other sheet. And when I put my letters down, I am only putting pressure at the very bottom. If you can see here, you can see they're all still loose across the top. That's just in case I need to move something. I can still slip my multi-purpose tool right under there and move things around. I'm pretty confident that these are going to go where I want them to go. You can also, if you needed to, use your Titletopia. I've done that before. I would use the Titletopia with my silicone mat, or if you could use it, if you have completed a sticker sheet, you can just pull off all the bits of the sticker and leave the backing. You can use that for your Titletopia. If you have an older Titletopia, it came with a sheet kind of like that. Maybe you've lost yours, right? The new Titletopia, the Arcs and Waves Titletopia, does not have that same base sheet to it that came with the original Titletopias. So the thing to do if you don't have the silicone mat is to just, sometime when you're done using up one of your sticker sheets, pull all of the bits and baubles off the leftover pieces and then just save the sticker sheet, the backing with your Titletopia, and you'll be all set to go. Yeah, the 2000 or like 1999, my gosh, I'm sure didn't have enough nines. Sometimes you just don't have enough of the numbers. Okay, so PLL Seattle, and then I will come over here and with the numbers, so the numbers, I started it here and went this direction because I knew I wanted to start on the left edge. When I started this page, I actually started over here. I did the S and then realized I wanted to have some exclamation point. So I at the S and built the word backwards. So now when I do the date in here, I will probably come in here and start with the 3 and build my date backwards this way. I could use a different set of stickers if I didn't want to use stickers that are so big. I'll probably think about it just a little bit to make sure that I want to do these same size stickers. Do I want to do something smaller? But all in all, that's kind of how it's going to go. You can see there, once I get it in the page protectors, it's going to flap open. But I like it from a standpoint of just having fun. We don't have this, when you're trying to work with sports and other activities where you don't necessarily have a collection that goes perfectly with it, but you can still bring in those colors. And I've got a lot of details here in the photos to carry through the theme. So I see a question from Ingrid about where do we want us to post the finished layouts. You can share them into the Scrapbooking with Meggan group. And on the handout, there is a hashtag, Scrapbook Live 1213. And so if you do share it in there, please use that hashtag. It just allows everybody to come back and see, how are you mixing and matching your papers? Did you do anything fun at the top and the bottom with maybe a different shape, or what are the punches? How did you do your borders? We all love seeing that kind of stuff. So, all right. That's what I have for you guys today. And so next week is the 20th, and my kids are out of school. Friday is the last day of elementary and high school they start winter break. And then my son, my oldest, should be home from school, from college. So I am going to probably not have a Scrapbook Live next week. More than likely will not. We will definitely not have one between Christmas and New Year. So the next time we're going to have Scrapbook Live is more than likely going to be January 3rd. That is the plan. Now, we've already had our virtual crop for the month. We did Power Hour yesterday. I did that with Tessa. If you did happen to miss, we had it a daytime session, so maybe caught some of you off guard with timing, but it's available on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see it there. And then the big thing that's going to be coming up is Winter Frolic. So that is the 8 weeks kind of bash your stash scrapbook challenge that Tessa and I do together in January and February. And if you want a way to help you pass through the dark, cold, miserable days of winter, Winter Frolic is probably a great way to do it, because I swear those 8 weeks go by super, super fast. So you can find out more information about that on our website, themegganandtessa.com. And but otherwise for Scrapbook Live, we'll probably pick back up after the first of the year on January 3rd. I will try to it might be listed as like a mystery project because I don't know what we'll do yet, but I'm going to try to go ahead and get that event listed so that it's just quick reminder to you guys that we're not going to meet next week or the following week. I want you to spend time, bake some cookies or something. Maybe I should have a bake live with Meggan. That'd be fun, but I'm not going to because my kitchen's a mess. But we can, we'll get back together January 3rd. So, all right. Take care. If you guys have any questions on anything, send me a message. More than happy to help. I will be around, so don't hesitate to contact me. I just probably won't be doing Scrapbook Live, but if you need a question on something, send me a message. I'm happy to help you as much as I can. And I hope you do have a wonderful time. Remember to get in front of the camera, take some selfies. I'm looking at myself as I'm saying this, like, Meggan, take some selfies with your family and just enjoy the holidays. Hopefully everybody has a healthy, happy time. Have a safe New Year's, and I will see you all again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.